Hello, welcome to Legal Aid Ontario's billing demonstration. This demonstration is meant to supplement your review of the Tariff and Billing Handbook, as not every rule or scenario is covered. This demonstration will be showing you how to enter an hourly criminal account for a matter set down for a preliminary inquiry or trial on a block fee eligible charge. When you sign in, you will be taken to the Legal Aid Online homepage. Click on Account tab at the top of the page. Then click on the Create, Modify, Review an Account link under the Criminal Account header. The next page has two tabs, Find an Existing Account and Add a New Account. Use Find an Existing Account to review a saved draft account. The Add New Account tab is highlighted, so you don't have to click on it. You can either enter the certificate number for the certificate you wish to create an account for, or click on the magnifying glass to display all of your active certificates. You can then click on the certificate you wish to add an account for. I will enter the account number. Click the Add button. The first section is pre-populated with general certificate information and the current date. We recommend that you leave the account date populated with the date you are entering the account. If you are unable to complete your account and must save a draft, it is important to note that any changes made to the certificate will not populate to the saved draft. If, for example, you are granted an authorization after you save a draft, this new authorization will not appear on your draft account, and our automated payment system will not apply the additional tariff to that account. So if you are waiting for an authorization or an invoice, it is best not to create a draft account. A question that is often asked is how to bill in a situation where matters initially proceed together but ultimately resolve separately. In this situation, you must request a new certificate to separate the charges from each other. Basic account information. The first question asked is, will you be billing additional services or disbursements under this certificate? If you plan to submit further accounts, select yes. If you are unsure, select yes. If you selected yes in the question above and you plan to submit further accounts, select interim. If you selected no in the question above, you should select final. Once a final account has been billed, you will be able to submit a supplementary account if necessary. I will select final. The next question asked is, have any of these charges been set down for a contested trial? If a preliminary hearing, trial, NCR hearing, or Gardner hearing has been scheduled, select yes and enter the date that the preliminary hearing, trial, NCR hearing, or Gardner hearing was scheduled. If one of these proceedings has not been scheduled, select no. It's important to note that even if the trial did not commence, for example, if the client pled guilty prior to the trial commencing, you must still indicate that the matter was set down for trial and bill this account hourly and not by block fee. I will select yes. Once you do so, the following pop-up message will appear. The matter has been set down for contested trial. You have selected yes. All matters to be billed on this account and all subsequent accounts on this certificate are on the hourly tariff as the matter has been set down for a contested trial. Click OK to continue. You must enter the date when the matter was set down for trial. This is the date you appeared in court to set the matter down for the trial or preliminary inquiry, not the actual date that the trial or preliminary inquiry is scheduled to be heard. Click on the box beside the date field to bring up a calendar and select the date the matter was set down. Note that on certificates issued for excluded charges and excluded processes, this question, have any of these charges been set down for a contested trial, will not appear as all excluded charges and processes are paid under the hourly tariff. Excluded charges include murder, sexual assault. Excluded processes include youth matters, big case management, and appeals. The LAO website contains a complete listing of both excluded charges and processes. First, date of service. The date that you enter here should be the first date of service that you are billing for on this account, which should correspond with the first date of service on your detailed account or dockets that you will be attaching to your account. You can either enter the date manually or click on the calendar page to display a calendar. If you click on the question mark symbol by any field, a pop-up will appear with information and instructions with respect to that particular field. Click on Done to return to the account page. Last date of service. The date that you enter here should be the last date of service that you are billing for on this account, which should correspond with the last date of service on your detailed account or dockets that you will be attaching to your account. You can either enter the date manually or click on the calendar page to display a calendar. Determining the applicable tariff maximum, block fee, hourly. This section is required to validate the applicable tariff maximum, block fee, or hourly for this certificate or account. All questions must be answered for all charges. Services relating to charges heard separately, i.e. resolved before different judges in different courts or at different times, may not be billed on one certificate. If charges are heard separately, the charges must be grouped according to the date on which the charges were resolved. Services relating to one group of charges can be billed under this certificate, and a new certificate is required for each additional group of charges heard separately. Please contact the Client Service Center at 1-800-668-8258 or local 416-979-1446 if a new certificate is required. The block fee tariff applies until the charges have been set down for a contested trial. After the charges have been set down for a contested trial, the hourly tariff applies. If the charges have not been set down for a contested trial, then all services billed in this account will be paid in accordance with the block fee tariff. If the charges have been set down for a contested trial, then all services billed in this account and subsequent accounts will be paid in accordance with the hourly tariff, even if performed prior to the charges being set down for a contested trial. If coverage for more than one charge is authorized, were the charges heard separately. If you attempt to click on the Yes, We Radio button, the selection will not change, as the charges on this certificate are block fee eligible. In order to bill for charges heard separately, you must request a new certificate. You can now request a new certificate through Legal Aid Online rather than calling through to the Client Service Center. On certificates issued for excluded charges, you will be able to select Yes and bill for charges heard separately on the excluded certificate. The next section lists all of the charges and authorizations you currently have on the certificate. Select the most serious charge, as you are entitled to the tariff for the most serious charge being dealt with. For any certificate that was issued prior to June 12, 2019, the acknowledgement box is always checked off, as it is applied automatically to hourly accounts. Otherwise, acknowledgement fees are no longer available on certificates issued after June 12, 2019. On this certificate, the most serious charge is robbery, which is an indictable type 2 offense. Since there is no election, that is the only choice available. For hybrid offenses, select summary conviction or indictable based on how the Crown elected to proceed. If no election has been made, select summary. In the plea outcome field, you have a number of choices, all of which will be paid under the hourly tariff. Since there was a total of 8 days of attendance, we will select contested 10 trial days or less. It is important to remember some key rules when billing for attendance. Attendance time can only be billed when you are in court hearing evidence, making submissions, attending for judgments, ruling sentence, and awaiting for a jury to complete deliberations. If you are billing a summary trial, you may only bill for attendance time on your additional trial days, not for day one of trial. Pretrial motions are included in the definition of attendance time. Adjournments, even when contested, are not billable as hearing time, nor is wait time. The only exception for wait time is for type 2 indictable charges, where time spent at court waiting to be reached on the day of trial or preliminary hearing is billable as court time, provided that the matter is reached and commences on that date, and provided that no other services are billed for the same period of time to any other client, whether legally aided or on private retainer. A contested criminal trial is a court proceeding where the accused is arraigned, enters a not guilty plea, and the Crown calls evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused committed the criminal offense as charged. Defense counsel contests the Crown's case, usually through challenging the admissibility of evidence, cross-examination of Crown witnesses, calling defense evidence, and making submissions to the court that the Crown has failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused is guilty of the criminal offense as charged. If an accused pleads guilty after being arraigned on a trial day, the matter is not contested, but is a guilty plea. In this example, we docketed that there were a total of 8 attendances, so next we will enter the number of extra days of proceedings in that field. This field represents days in addition to the first, so 7 will be entered as there were 7 extra days after the first. Entering a number in this field generates the additional 4 hours of per diem preparation time for each additional day in court after the first. The preparation for the first day is covered in base tariff of 15 hours for a contested trial, which is why only the additional days are entered. If we were entering an interim account and the next account submitted included additional court days, each additional court day would then be entered as there can only be one first day in court. It's important to remember not to enter a running total, just the number of court days covering the time period of the additional interim account. In the hours in court field, we will enter 40 hours as there was 5 hours of attendance time on each of the 8 days in court. The next section allows counsel to bill for additional tariff items: bail hearings, pretrials with a judge, pretrials before a superior court judge, charter motions, second bail hearing, bail variation. For this example, we have docketed 1 judicial pretrial in the Ontario Court of Justice. We will enter a 1 in that respective box. We have also docketed a Superior Court JPT. We will then enter a 1 in the respective box. Note that for certificates that do not include excluded charges or processes, you will only be able to enter a maximum of 1 in each of these boxes. The next section asks you to select the most applicable reason for not resolved. Since this is being billed under the hourly tariff, we cannot make a selection here. The not resolved reason is only available for block fee accounts. Disposition details. On block fee eligible matters, even when there was a trial or preliminary hearing set, you will need to input information in these fields. I will enter the disposition date of November 19, 2021. Court location, and sentencing jurisdiction. You can also enter whether the matter took place in any of these: mental health court, drug treatment court, domestic violence court. Total hours billed. The acknowledging lawyer's solicitor number and name will be pre-populated in this section. Enter the total number of hours worked for the acknowledging lawyer, including all court time entered above. Counsel is billing for a total of 84.2 hours, so I will enter that here. Click on the plus sign to add another row for additional service providers, including lawyers who acted as your agent, articling students, or law clerk. In the solicitor number field, add either the solicitor number of the other impaneled lawyer or student or law clerk and enter the total hours worked by each. For lawyers who acted as your agent, include any court time entered above. A student who is not an articling student under the formal articles of clerkship or the experiential component of the law practice program must be billed as a law clerk, but not a student. Paralegals are billed as law clerks. The program automatically recalculates the articling students or law clerks' hours for payment purposes by dividing the total number of hours worked by the articling student or law clerk by 3 in accordance with the legal aid tariff. The program automatically applies the applicable tariff hourly rate to each lawyer, law clerk, or articling student, calculates the fees billed, and adds HST. The calculation appears in the summary field near the end of the billing form. Note, you are not allowed to bill for the services of lawyers who are not legal aid roster members. Docket calculated the student's time at 7.5 hours, so I will enter that here. Click on Calculate and you will see that the program will recalculate the student's hours to be 2.5 hours. Private retainers. If you were privately retained by the client or by another third party to perform services for the client with respect to the same matter or any related matter or any ancillary matter before or after the effective date of the certificate, click on Yes. Enter the total amount of the private retainer in the private retainer field. If you were retained on a pro bono basis, enter 0 in the following field. If you have represented the client on a private retainer, you must attach a copy of your dockets and a copy of your trust ledger. Only report the private retainer on your first account. Do not report the same private retainer on every account as it will delay payment. For additional information regarding private retainer, you can click on the question box or consult the Tariff and Billing Handbook. The next field indicates I am also representing this client on another certificate. If you represent the client on another certificate, enter the certificate number here. If you do not represent the client on another certificate, leave it blank. The next section asks, was there a co-accused? There are 2 radial buttons, one for yes and one for no. If there was no co-accused, move on to the next question. If there was a co-accused, click yes, and the field below for the co-accused name will open up. Enter the co-accused name in the field and check the Did you represent the co-accused box if applicable. If you did, the field for the certificate number of the co-accused will open up. Enter the co-accused certificate number if you were retained on a legal aid certificate. Click the plus symbol to enter additional co-accused. Special disbursements. Special disbursements are those that require prior authorization from legal aid prior to the expense being incurred. If you are unsure if the disbursement you intend on incurring requires authorization, please consult the Disbursements Handbook. The first section displays prior special disbursements, which will display any previously billed special disbursements authorized by LAO. Once you have requested authorization, lawyer services and payments will advise you if the disbursement has been approved. If the disbursement has been approved, it will then appear in this section. Do not bill in excess of the quantity, rate, or amount authorized, as this will prevent the account from being paid automatically and will create delays in payment. If you require an increase in the amount authorized, please request this in writing from Lawyer Services and Payments Department prior to billing. Do not include tax when billing, as our system is programmed to automatically add tax to the amount billed. Regular disbursements. These are disbursements that you may incur without authorization. Check the disbursement handbook to be sure that the type of disbursement is allowed for the type of case you are billing. Ensure you are billing the invoices under the appropriate type. For example, a hospital record invoice should not be billed under medical report prepared by a specialist. Most disbursements have limits on the amount that can be billed. Check the disbursement handbook to ensure you are billing within the limit. You must request authorization in writing from lawyer services and payments prior to billing disbursements, which exceed the amount allowed. Follow the same procedure for special disbursements to seek authorization for disbursements that exceed the set limits. Ensure that invoices comply with policies. Invoices that do not comply with policies may result in recoveries. Prior regular disbursements. This lists the cumulative total of regular disbursements you have previously billed. Hospital records. You will see that previously we have submitted an interim account for the disbursement of hospital records here. Adding disbursements. Click on the Add Disbursements link to bring up the list of inherent disbursements. Check the box beside all of the disbursements that you plan to bill. I will check off Print Disclosure from Disk. Click Add and Return. The disbursements that you selected are now populated in the disbursement section. Print Disclosure. Enter the number of pages in the quantity field, and the retained amount will update once you click on the Calculate button. I will enter 250 pages. You are not required to attach all of your disbursement invoices. However, you are required to retain all invoices and produce them when requested. Although you are not required to attach all invoices to the account, it is good practice to do so, as this will avoid delay in payment if LAO wishes to review the invoices. Requesting a discretionary increase. Ensure that you click the radial button Yes if you are requesting discretion. If you do not, the system will pay the account up to tariff and it will not send the balance of the account to a staff member for review. For this demonstration, I will select No. Attachments. Dockets must be attached to all hourly accounts. Prior to submitting your dockets, we suggest you review the docket section of the Tariff and Billing Handbook. First, select the appropriate choice from the drop-down menu. Dockets. Next, click on the paperclip. A new window will open. Click Browse or Choose File to view your file directory. Select the file that you wish to upload. And click Upload. Outcome reporting. As of April 29, 2023, Legal Aid Ontario introduced expanded outcome reporting for all adult and youth proceedings, including bail hearings. Similar to outcomes currently recorded for block fee accounts, outcome reporting will be required for all final billed accounts. Bail outcome and outcome reporting on hourly accounts. Bail outcomes and charge outcomes on hourly tariff accounts are reported on a separate page. The types of outcomes available for reporting are determined by the selections made in the Determining the Applicable Tariff Maximum section of the account, where the plea outcome for the charge is selected. For example, sentencing outcomes will display only if a finding of guilt or guilty plea is recorded, but pretrial custody fields are displayed regardless of the disposition being selected. Bail outcomes only display if a bail hearing is billed. Access the outcome reporting by clicking on the Proceed to Outcome Reporting button found at the bottom of the account. When you do, the following message displays. Any changes to the charges selected above will require that the outcomes be re-entered. This message is to alert you that if you change any of the plea outcomes in the Determining the Applicable Tariff Maximum section, you will need to re-enter your outcomes based on the changes that you made. If no plea entered is selected, and if a bail hearing has not been billed, you will receive a message that says, based on your selection, outcome reporting is not required, and you can continue with submitting your account. If no plea entered is selected and a bail hearing is billed, bail outcomes will still be required. I will click on OK to get to the outcome reporting page. Trial outcome. The most serious charge which was selected in the Determining the Applicable Tariff Maximum section will be displayed. A variety of outcomes are available to select, including not resolved. A trial outcome is required for all final accounts. Outcomes are not required for some proceedings, such as bail reviews. If an outcome is not required, the magnifying glass and outcomes field will not be available. When one of the guilty outcomes is selected, the sentence outcomes will become available. Click on the magnifying glass to select your outcomes here. Sentence outcomes are conditional sentence, custody, fine or restitution, suspended sentence, conditional discharge, or absolute discharge. Check the probation box for any sentence that includes a probation order. If the outcome selected is conditional sentence or custody, new options are available. Select the type of sentence, concurrent, consecutive, or not applicable. Select concurrent. Select the length of the sentence outcomes. Click Apply to return to the main outcome reporting page. Pretrial custody questions will appear for all outcomes and are not dependent on any specific selection. Select yes or no from the pretrial custody drop-down menu. If yes, select the length of the pretrial custody from the options available. Select the appropriate response for the in custody client bail sought column. Options are bail hearing, bail not attempted, or not in custody, released by police. I'm going to select bail hearing. If submitting a final account when one or more charges are not resolved after a plea was entered, select the not resolved outcome. Then select a reason from the available drop-down menu as to why the matter was not resolved. Note that similar to adult matters, youth sentencing outcomes are also captured. The list of outcomes includes sentences specific to youth matters and selections for the length of supervision orders. Bail outcome. Bail outcomes are recorded for hourly and block fee accounts for both the first and second bail hearing. The most serious charge which was selected in the Determining the Applicable Tariff Maximum section will be displayed. Select the magnifying glass icon for criminal record of client. This field is mandatory. Select all of the options here that apply to your client. Click Apply. The next three drop-down menus are mandatory fields. Select whether the charge was a domestic violence allegation. Select if mental health or addictions issues were addressed at a Crown pretrial or at the bail hearing. Select the bail hearing outcome. DO in this menu stands for detention order. When a bail hearing outcome indicating a detention order is selected, the grounds for detention order column will become selectable. Select the magnifying glass icon to select the detention details.
click Apply to return to the main outcome reporting page. When a bail hearing outcome indicating a release is selected, the magnifying glass icon in the Conditions of Release column will become selectable. Select the magnifying glass icon to select the release conditions, and select the release conditions here. Click on Apply to return to the main outcome reporting page. Separate certificates where charges resolve together. On the hourly tariff account certificate where the resolution is billed, all outcome fields for the charges on the certificate must be recorded. Pretrial custody fields are required. Bail outcomes are required if a bail hearing is billed for the charges covered by the certificate. On a block fee certificate where the resolution is not billed, select Resolved on another certificate as the plea outcome. Pretrial custody fields are required to be completed. Bail outcomes are required if a bail block is billed on that certificate. On hourly certificates where the resolution is not billed, the certificate is not billed. You may print the outcome reporting by selecting the Printable Outcome button. The print version of the account on the portal will include only those outcomes and responses entered. For example, if bail outcomes did not appear on the page to complete, the section will not appear on the print version. Where multiple selections apply, i.e. youth sentencing and bail, all the selections and responses will appear in the print version. You can click to print and click on Return to get to the main outcome reporting page again. To complete the outcome reporting and proceed with completing or submitting the account, select Save and Return. This will bring you back to the account page.
Submission of the account. The person submitting the account is required to identify themselves. If you are the acknowledging lawyer, click the button which indicates Submitted by Acknowledging Lawyer. If the account is being submitted by an employee, they must provide their name, phone number, and email. Note that it is the responsibility of the acknowledging lawyer to review the online account and attached dockets prior to the account being submitted. Once you click on Submit, a pop-up warning will remind you of this requirement. If the lawyer has not reviewed the account, it can be saved as a draft pending review by the acknowledging lawyer. This concludes our demonstration on billing a block fee eligible certificate under the hourly tariff due to a preliminary inquiry or trial. I hope that it has been informative and of assistance to you.